sort of a bigger picture, higher for longer inflation question. So question asks or starts, core CPI is annualizing at north of 4% on a 3-month basis with consumer spending, both real and nominal, still holding up. Is the market expectation here that inflation cools itself? What could drive the left tail risk to inflation? That is, what is an unexpected disinflationary force or forces that could reverse the higher for longer momentum in the economy? And conversely, what are the upside risks to inflation from here?
Well, the most disinflationary thing you can have is a recession, provided that the Fed isn't like hurrying up the offense towards 15 rate cuts, and that's the difference, right? So we're basically saying that the risks to being wrong on inflation are little to none, or not worth really. Like I don't wake up every morning trying to say like, where could your entire process be wrong? We try to find how we can improve the process, right? It's a much more progressive view of the process than living, and I get it. I used to have a boss, and the questions would always be the same. Where could you be wrong? In other words, where could he be wrong and him ultimately blame you if you didn't give him those risks? I mean, so this is, the process on where we could be wrong is daily. I wrote about this morning. There's a reason why, and to be clear, some person already said this back to me. He's like, you're not Jerry Rice. I'm like, obviously not. I'm a chubby 49-year-old 5'9" guy. No, I'm not Jerry Rice. But why is it that Jerry Rice, why is it at 6 a.m, he'd run slant routes with no quarterback, no ball, no one around? Why? Because he wanted to master his craft and master his professionalism. When I get up in the morning, I'm trying to find the answers that are changing. I'm not trying to find where I could be wrong or where I could be right. If it changes, I change. I think it's an entirely different way to think, obviously. When you think about approaching markets this way, fractally, and again, assuming nonlinearity, assuming that you don't know anything about anything. I take it with great pride that I had the lowest SAT score at Yale, and I am not as smart as most people think they are on Wall Street. Again, I assume that, and I assume the element of surprise. So if and when anything changes, we will highlight this is changing, this is new. One example of this would be, we thought that the end of student loans, Steiner, in terms of forgiveness, would be a consumer spending headwind. Well, it turns out that 40% of people that had to pay it back didn't pay it back anyway, and the government let them do it, and then came up with new reasons. So there's just something that I couldn't have made up in my sleep if I tried. But we had to say, okay, now that's net positive for consumption, and has been. In addition, government spending is another good example of that. So I hope you can all appreciate that I'm trying to answer the question, but not assume the position that the question assumes sometimes, and not in this case specifically, but I'm always going to start with the process. It's a tough job. And if you think you can get a shortcut, if you think you can watch this and get a couple tips, if you think that that's what the job is, you're going to be sadly mistaken. This is a very difficult job, especially if you've done it for 25 years, and especially if you expect to do it for another 15 or 25 more. So again, stay with it. If something changes that surprises us, our job is to highlight it. Nobody writes an early look strategy note every day. I've written almost 3,000 of these bloody things. Top 3 things every day, the macro show every day. You're gonna hear about it if something's changing relative to what we expect. And if there was something that's already changed relative to what we expected, we would have already said it. Hey there, Hedgeye Nation, or if you're not part of Hedgeye Nation, thanks for watching Hedgeye on YouTube. If you haven't already, make sure to click on the button below there. Subscribe to our YouTube page. You can also follow the link in the description to our website to get even more great investing content.